It is that time of week, Wednesday, when we do our Detroit Lions defense through. And this is week 5. Although the Detroit Lions defense was off, their whole team was off, we would still do this. I want to see where they fail after the week 5 dust has settled. Now, going into last week, the defense had been playing pretty good, took a big hit after that performance against Geno Smith, right? But imagine being having 509 yards put up on you by Kirk Cousins, if that was the case. So imagine that. Geno Smith put just under 400 yards, and the Detroit Lions pass defense took a hit. But overall, they've been playing pretty decent ball, specifically when it comes to the run game. But how did their defense fare, even though the entire team was off? Let's take a look at these stats here. Now, obviously, it's week 5, so the asterisk there denotes a bye week. And total yards is total defense. I found that out today. I thought that's what it was, but I don't know, man. There's so many stats, it gets confusing. So when it comes to total yards, the Detroit Lions stayed the same. They stayed the same at 22nd, which is super weird, but they stayed the same. Passing yards, just because they didn't play, they went up 3 spots from 30th to 27th. The rushing attack or rushing defense stayed the same at 4th. That tells you that the rushing defense is the strength of our team for the second year in a row. In sacks, they went from 14 to 7th, obviously not playing. The Minnesota Vikings are at 22. They lead the league. We have 11, so they have twice as many as we do in one more game. That kind of tells you, man, and they're also 5-0. So anyway, points per game, the Detroit Lions are 10th, and turnover differential, they are tied at 15th, which is down 3 spots. They were 12th before. So again, total defense is 22nd. Passing defense is 27th, up 3 spots. Rushing stays the same. Sacks down 7 spots from 14 to 21. Points per game remains at 10th. And turnover differential, they are tied at 15 as far as their place on defense. Now, what's my takeaways? Listen. In 2022, the Detroit Lions wind up having that was when we almost got to the playoffs. You know, our total defense was last in the league. Not passing defense, total defense is last in the league. Right now, our total defense is 22nd. That's where we are, okay? 22nd. But we points per game, we're 10th, okay? So my thing is this. Out of this graphic, 3 stayed the same, 2 down arrows and 1 up arrow. Obviously, this will start to kind of balance out in week 14-ish, somewhere around there when all the teams have had their bye week. But I'll say this. We talk about getting your guys. We give everybody a pass for not having their guys. Aaron Glenn didn't have his guys. Dan Campbell, year 1, didn't have his guys. Okay? It seems like when it comes to accountability with the Detroit Lions, we pick and choose who we hold accountable, right? I make a mistake in a video, you guys hold me accountable. You say something in the comment section. When I go back and I listen to my video, I'm like, dang, I said this, I meant this. I said this about Trayvon Walker, but I meant this. Or I didn't, I think about all that stuff. And a lot of times you guys are quick to correct me in the comment sections. You hold me accountable, right? When are we going to do the same thing to our fellas? Okay. Now here's the Detroit Lions defense falls on 4 things: Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, Brad Holmes, and the players. All right. It is Aaron Glenn's job to coach and scheme correctly. It is Dan Campbell's job to pull rank when he has to. He is the boss of the Detroit Lions coaching staff. It is Brad Holmes' job to put all of these pieces into place, to put the correct players on this team, and it is the players' job to fulfill their side of the bargain, okay, to play the game. Accountability has to go somewhere, all right? So you get better players in the secondary. What would you say the weakest part of our defense is? Is it the secondary? Is it the linebackers? Or is it the defensive line? For me, I was thinking in my head, the defensive line. The defensive line. Is it hard? What's the strength of our team? I would say the strength of our team, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Secondary, we've been giving up a lot of, I'm going to say it's tough because you could say defensive line based on run D, but the strength of our team, man, linebackers. I would have to say the strength of our team is the linebacker position. That's what I would say. I would say a second, we have to see how this plays out. But the secondary, I think the defensive line is the weakest part of the team. Now, we're great against the run. Don't get me wrong. We're great against the run. But I think overall, the defensive line is our worst part of the team. But you could disagree with me, right? So my thing is this. When are we going to hold Aaron Glenn accountable? When are we going to hold Brad Holmes accountable? Right now, going into this year, after 4 games, so forget going into this year. After 4 games, where are you going to place the accountability on? You're going to put it on Carlton Davis and Terrion Arnold. You could do that. Terrion has been called for pass interference in almost every game, if not every game, right? He's also been going up against wide receiver 1s and 2s. He's either got a 1 or a solid 2, a 1A or a 1B, like real talk. So I want to say the secondary is the strength of our team, but because of all the pass interference, because of where our pass D ranks, and I told y'all this during the lead up to the season, a defensive line helps the secondary. It really, really does. Now, I didn't go see what the Minnesota Vikings and all that stuff is. I'm not worried about them right now, right? But where their defensive line is helping their pass defense get to, it could be tomato. It could be yin and yang. It could be where their defensive line gets a bunch of sacks and all of this, a lot of pressure, and their secondary sucks. It could be that way, right? But to me, Aaron Glenn has the end of this year. Our total defense last year was ranked. Okay, let me see. I'm going to go off the dome here. In year 1, it was ranked. Man, because I looked it up yesterday. I could be confusing it between pass D and ranked defense. I think our defense last year was 18-19. It was our overall D, points per game, were 18-19. Look how far we got, right? We made it to the NFC title game. I think if that's top 10, we win the Super Bowl. That's what I think. Our offense was so overpowered. I think that's where we get to, right? In year 1, it was 28th total defense. In year 2, it was dead last. In year 3, heading into this game in total defense, which remember is yards per game, okay, it is currently 22nd, okay? So I understand that we're still winning games, but that's because of the offense, right? The defense has complemented the offense so far. They've been responsible for keeping the defense. To me, is why we are where we are. And I know that sounds like, well, how are you saying that when you're talking about replacing Aaron Glenn? Eventually. Not right now, not during the season, but eventually, at the end of the season. The defense has kept us in the game. But if you start looking at when we need the defense to step up and make a play, right? When we need defense, the fact that at the end of the day, how much better is the defense getting? So remember, in year 1, we're talking about we got the 28th ranked defense overall, 20 and 22, dead last. That's why we started as bad as we get. That's why we had to climb out that hole. In year 3, we're at 18. So he's made a jump, but we still got a long season to go. So for me, would I entertain Robert? Like, what would it take? And I put this on Twitter, and I'm going to put it before you, and I'll answer the question myself. What is it going to take? Where do the Detroit Lions need to be for you to consider moving on from Aaron Glenn at the end of the season? And the reason I don't put it just on the defense, because winning covers things. So if our defense is, I don't know, if our defense is ranked statistically, okay, if we are ranked in the bottom 5 or 6, we're not going to win the Super Bowl. Statistically, we could, but statistically, it doesn't add up. So is it going to take for you? Is it because I'm sure if we win the Super Bowl, nobody's going to care about where the defense was at, right? We're going to be popping bottles, celebrating the Super Bowl. It won't matter. We won it all. It doesn't matter. But it does if you look at the stats, okay? So what do you need to see from the team in order for you to be willing to consider moving on from Aaron Glenn? Do you need to see a bottom third defense if we win the Super Bowl, but our defense is bottom third? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with, I mean, if we blow a 17-point lead, are you like, what? So what is it that you need to see in order, in any capacity, to consider moving on from Aaron Glenn? Here's my answer. Statistically, bottom third defense don't win Super Bowls. Statistically, it doesn't happen. It's possible, especially when you catch the opposition, if you catch the Chiefs in a bad game or the Ravens in a bad game, right? What the Ravens did to the Lions last year was what top defenses do, even though our players were out, right? We had 7 dudes injured or something like that, 7 starters. So for me, matter of fact, I don't think Monty even played that game. Jahmyr Gibbs' first touchdown, Monty didn't even play that game. So for me, here's what I believe. If our defense is bottom third, so we're talking about where it is now through the Super Bowl, or I'm sorry, where it is now through the bottom of the league. Like, we are 22. I think that we can still win if we catch the opposition in the Super Bowl on a bad day. Statistically, it doesn't add up, but we can still do it. If we're ranked, I would love to see top half of the league. So we're talking about 16 and above. Last year, we were 18 or 19. And look how far we got. So I think if we're in the top 15-ish, top third of the league, I think we can win the Super Bowl. So for me, if we win the Super Bowl, then I give Aaron Glenn another chance. Like, you know what? Okay, you did enough. So something you did was working. If we don't win the Super Bowl and we're ranked in the 20s, I think it might be time to move on. I think it might be time to move on because you're consistently, now you're talking about 28, year 1, dead last, year 2, year 3, 18. If we go back and your players got better, why? You understand what I'm saying? So if our team is the best it's ever been on defense, but yet we regress in defense, then something is not working. So I guess my answer is, if we are lower, then and you could factor in injury into this as well, but then that's where Brad Holmes comes in. And y'all ain't about to, first of all, we not moving on from Brad Holmes. Y'all ain't gonna blame Brad Holmes. So somebody got to be this year's Aubrey Pleasant. And who is it gonna be? It's not gonna be Dan. It's not gonna be Brad. And it's not gonna be the players. All of these players, most of these players on this team are on the team past this year. All right. So somebody got to pay. And if Aaron Glenn is not 18 or above, if he's in the 20s and we don't win the Super Bowl, then it might be time to move on. And Robert Saleh is a great candidate. That's what he does. Wouldn't it be something if he interviewed for this job? Dan Campbell will probably be at the end of when all is said and done, the only head coach from 2021 that still has a job at the end of this year, because he will have a job at the end of this year. Sirianni is on his way out. Wouldn't it be crazy if Saleh, who interviewed for the job and allegedly turned it down, I don't know if that's factual, but allegedly turned it down, to come back and be on this team's defensive coordinator, be on the staff, right? So I know we don't want to move on from Aaron Glenn. I know the players love Aaron Glenn. I know Dan Campbell loves Aaron Glenn, but I bet you could say the same thing about Aubrey Pleasant. And he paid the price. And he seems to be doing okay in LA. I'm just saying, right? So let me know your thoughts. Where would you need the team and or defense to be? For me, it's if we win the Super Bowl, we good. I expect you to be better next year. But if we win the Super Bowl, we're at the top of the mountain. I'm not going to complain about that. However, if we don't win the Super Bowl and the Lions with the current roster that we have and the fact that we probably will get better on D at the trade deadline, okay, Mosley will be back. If we don't win the Super Bowl and we're ranked lower than we were last year, it might be time to move on. That's when I would be ready to move on. So he got a chance. We got plenty of season left. 13 games. He's got more than an opportunity to get us. Right now, we are in the bottom third of the league in total defense. We ended the season. There's no reason we should be less than 18 with 13 games left. We are trending the way that we're playing. We are trending, I would say, top third of the league. I think we probably going to wind up at 12, somewhere around there. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. This channel is brought to you by viewers, subscribers, and members just like you. You could be anywhere else on YouTube, but you choose to rock with me. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.